I'm very proud, very, very proud to introduce to you our speaker this evening, Michael Ignatieff.
That was a very kind introduction. I remember that the day it was spit very vividly. It made me aware, as I'm always aware, that you can't do politics unless you get very close to something. You can't understand anything unless you shut the books, stop the talk, and go and listen. And listen very carefully, in this case, to elders who know the land better than I do and have a lot to tell us about how we can bring ourselves in harmony with it. And I felt that that community respected Bryony, thought she would listen well, thought she understood what was on their minds, and they thought that she'd make a very good member of Parliament, as do we all. Well, what this election is about, I think that we have to understand that Stephen Harper's secret agenda is not secret at all. He doesn't have an agenda for Canada, actually. He doesn't have a plan for Canada. What he has is a plan for the Conservative Party, which is not the same thing. What he wants to do is to replace the Liberal Party of Canada as the natural governing party of the country. And when he's done that, move the country 10 degrees to the right. That's the agenda. It's very clear. There's no mystery about it, in fact. And you have to understand what that would mean for our country. The center of our political system was defined for about 50 years by the Liberal Party of Canada. Where we defined the center, that's where the center was. And because we defined where the center was, the shape of Canada was structured by that decision to put the center where it was. What that meant is that we had Medicare. We had the Canada Pension Plan. Nous allons créer un pays bilingue où les minorités linguistiques sont respectées. We created a country in which finally Aboriginal justice began to be done for the First Nations peoples. We created the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Because we defined where the center was, that is where pragmatic, sensible, non-ideological, practical politics was, we built the Canada that you live in. We're not perfect, but I think everybody who's a liberal feels an intense pride at what our party contributed to the country. If Stephen Harper succeeds in replacing us at the next election and then consolidates that, he will move the center to the right. And you really will have a less equal, less just, less tolerant, less fair, less compassionate country. You'll have a less thoughtful political culture, a less civil political culture. You'll have an attack political culture, a take no prisoners political culture. You'll have a federation based on divide and rule, wedge politics. Stephen Harper knows another thing, which is that he knows that Canadians don't like him very much and don't trust him very much. And actually, he's okay with that. What he wants to get is 40%. He doesn't care about the rest. He's not governing for the whole country. He's governing for the 40 that gives him a majority, right? That's how he thinks. So if you're in the 40, you're okay. If you're not, if you're in the 60, look out, okay? So we have to understand what we're dealing with here. We're in a battle for the center of Canadian life. And who defines the center of Canadian life? And I want us to be the people who define the center of Canadian life. I want us to defend the things that have made Canada what it is. So that is my sense of what's fundamentally at stake here. And to say this is to say that we are a party of the center, the compassionate, progressive center. We're not a party of the left. We're not a party of the right. We're a party of the compassionate, progressive center, which means we like markets. We like hard work. We like personal responsibility. We like free enterprise, right? We like that stuff. But we also believe you can't have any of those things in a country like ours unless you have a government that is prepared to guarantee that your food is safe, that your environment is clean, and that markets are honest and well regulated and don't defraud the people. That's what I mean by being at the center of our political system. And we have to hold that center because by God, He's going to move it to the right. And you'll wake up in a country you don't recognize and you won't be at home in. That's why this is a really important election. And that's why it's very, very important to get a smart, capable, compassionate, knowledgeable, scientifically based, good writer like Bryony Penn in the House of Commons of Canada, okay? That's why we have to do this. Now I'm going to talk about the part where I get angry. You're going to see me get a little steamed up. I want to talk about leadership, because one of the things that's making me furious in this election campaign is that Stephen Harper is walking around Canada saying, I get to define what strong leadership is. Who does he think he is? This is the man who devastated the savings, possibly, of people in this room. People who put faith in his promise not to break the promise on income trust. There are people, I think, in this audience, possibly, I meet them everywhere, who put their faith in a conservative promise not to mess with income trust, and he devastated. This is the man who denied the reality and science of climate change. This is the man who runs the most secretive government in the history of the country. And he's walking around defining what strong leadership is. It makes me angry. And it makes me angry for a very good reason, because in this audience, there are a lot of leaders. I don't know you very well, but I suspect that they're community leaders. Leaders from churches, leaders from environmental groups, leaders in business, leaders in commerce, and leaders just in your family life. And you know from your own lived experience that leadership comes in a lot of forms. They're leaders who talk quietly and softly. They're leaders who listen. They're leaders who bring out the best in human beings. And you love them as leaders because somehow they make you feel better and perform better, and they raise your game. You know those kind of leaders? And when we've been well led, and you can't have a society without leadership, it's because they brought the best out of us. Or they've taken a ragtag and bobtail group of people who are fussing and fighting with each other, and that leader is mysteriously, perhaps only by a quiet word or by just hard work, or some mysterious charisma that they have, made them into a team. Have you ever been in a team and felt how good it is to be in a team? That feeling, and you don't get a team unless you have a captain. You don't get a team unless you have leadership. But it takes all kinds of leaders to make a great country. And this man Harper's walking around saying there's one kind of leader and it looks like me. Well, we have to stop that. We really have to stop that. We've got a one-man band leader, a my way or the highway leader. We've got a divide and rule leader. We've got a take no prisoners leader. We've got a man who muzzles his own caucus. A Keith Martin would be inconceivable in the Conservative Party of Canada. In our party, let free spirits reign, right? I've learned from Keith, I don't always agree with him, but he stands for what he believes. And this leader behind here allows him to speak, listens to him with respect. And this gets me to this contrast. For 19 months, the Conservatives have spent money pounding the guy whose picture is behind me, pounding him, right? With abusive, personal, deceitful advertising. They have then flooded every riding in the country with a flagrant abuse of the franking privileges of members of Parliament. And then they send the pollsters out there, and hey presto, who's defined as a weak leader? If you pound a person like that and then stick a microphone in front of an average Canadian, they say, well, I guess people are telling me he's a weak leader. I mean, come on, guys. We've got to stop this. This is terrible politics. It makes me angry. I was his rival in the leadership. Everybody knows that in this room. But I worked with this guy, right? The question that has to be focused for Canadians is who can do the job, right? This is about who you want to be the Prime Minister of Canada. And I'm here to tell you, because I've worked with him for 18 months, the man can do the job. He's tough, he's resilient, he's robust,